Everyone wants to be the beast. Not everyone wants to do what the beast does. If you want to be the beast, you have to do what the beast do. It's a quote from Nick Saban. Let's talk about amateurs, professionals, and elevators. There are three types of performers in the world: an amateur, a professional, and an elevator. My definition of an elevator is one who elevates everyone around them through their thoughts, words, and actions. Someone who takes people to the top with them. Now, there is a common ranking order in terms of performance, and you may have heard this before: poor, average, good, great, elite. Okay, 5 levels. And let's say that good is if you're in the top 20% of performers. Great is if you're in the top 5%. Elite is if you're in the top 1%. I believe there's a level above that, and that's the elevator. That's the top 0.001%. And we will talk about what elevators do. Now, an elevator, again, is a standard of performance in terms of their thoughts, words, and actions. Anybody could be an elevator. A parent could be an elevator. A school teacher could be an elevator. A teacher who really gives their best to elevate as many students as they possibly can. A janitor could be an elevator. A CEO could be an elevator. A professional athlete could be an elevator. Let's talk about exactly what these key mindsets and ways of communicating and habits are. And I want to frame it through what I call the 3 habits. And this is after 20 plus years and 40,000 hours of spending time with the best in the world, my studying and spending time with the best in the world. I've narrowed it down to 3 key habits. The first key habit is the ability to absolutely prioritize what is most important each day and get the top 1 or 2 or 3 most important tasks done each day. That's habit number 1 among the best of the best ever. Okay, the highest performers. Habit number 2 is to make what I call elevated choices, which falls into 2 categories. 1 is to be kind and useful to others, and 2 is to do hard things. Okay, that's the second key habit of the best of the best. The third key habit is what I call modeling Mount Rushmore, which is going and studying the absolute best of the best, 3 or 4 people in your discipline and field. If you're a parent, it could be the 3 or 4 best child psychologists in the world. If you are an entrepreneur, it could be 3 or 4 of the most successful entrepreneurs in history. If you're a basketball player, it's studying the absolute 3 or 4 best basketball players in history and then modeling their mindsets, words, and actions. So those are the 3 key habits. So let's talk about this through the lens of an amateur, a professional, and an elevator. Okay. Let's talk about it in terms of the first habit, which is priorities, getting your top 1 or 2 or 3 most important tasks done each day, relentlessly and religiously. An amateur says yes to almost everything, meaning they don't have clear priorities. Professional says no to some things, okay? Meaning they have some idea of their priorities, but they say no to, some things that don't have to do with their priorities, but they say yes to others. The elevator says no to almost everything that doesn't have to do with their top priorities and most important goals. That's what an elevator does. Let's talk about the second habit in terms of doing hard things. The amateur avoids hard things at all costs. These are emotionally difficult things. Could be a difficult conversation you need to have. It could be avoiding some difficult exercise that you don't want to do. It could be avoiding unhealthy foods that you know you shouldn't eat. Okay, these are all doing hard things. It could be fearlessly asking for what you need, asking for a raise, asking for a loan for the business that you want to start. These are hard things. The amateur avoids hard things at all costs. The professional does some hard things, but avoids the hardest things. The elevator runs towards the hardest things all the time because they know that's what it takes to elevate the fastest and to become the best. The third habit, modeling Mount Rushmore. Okay, going to and studying the best of all time in your discipline and field. The amateur spends little to no time studying greatness. Greatness is the Mount Rushmore. The professional spends time learning, but doesn't study and learn from the best of the best. And I believe there's two reasons why people don't do this. One is focus. They just don't know who to focus on and don't know they should be studying the best of the best. And two is fear, that they're afraid that they're not good enough. Why would they study the best of the best? They have a fear that they're not good enough to do that. Okay. Let's talk about what the elevator does. The elevator studies and learns from the best of the best only, and is extremely scrutinous with the information they take in. So instead of studying millionaires, the elevator studies billionaires. Instead of studying all stars or professional athletes, the elevator studies Hall of Famers. Okay. Instead of studying a politician, the elevator studies US presidents. They go right to the Mount Rushmore, the best of the best ever, and they study them religiously and relentlessly. Let's talk about amateur, professional, and elevator through the lens of what we call the RNA 7, the 7 habits that you need to acquire to be respected and admired. So let's talk about the RNA 7, elevators versus professionals and amateurs. Habit number 1 of being respected and admired, be early for commitments. So the amateur is generally a few minutes late for commitments. They're just generally casually late for almost everything. The professional is on time some of the time. The elevator is early for almost every commitment. And when I'm talking about the 3 previous habits we discussed, and now the 7 habits of being respected and admired, I am not judging people. I am judging standards and habits. I'm not judging a human being. If they don't have these habits yet, I'm not judging them. I'm not judging their character, their soul, who they are. I'm judging their standards. And I'm challenging everyone listening to this to elevate their standards, to become that elevator who elevates everyone around them, who lifts everyone around them up and elevates people to the top with them. Okay. Habit number 2, being respected and admired. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. The amateur keeps their word a small fraction of the time. The professional keeps their word some of the time. And trust me, most people overestimate how often they keep their word. If they actually start to keep track of it, they realize that it's most likely 50% or less, when they think they're keeping their word 90% of the time. Okay. The elevator keeps their word all the time. They do what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. Habit number 3, respond quickly and positively to phone calls, text messages, and emails from friends, family, and colleagues. The amateur responds days later, if they even respond at all. The professional gets back to you within a day or a few days most of the time. The elevator responds the same day or within 24 hours almost all the time. Habit number 4, do a little extra, go above and beyond, over deliver. The amateur does the bare minimum or less than expected. The professional does what's expected the vast majority of the time. They just do what's expected the majority of the time. The elevator over delivers almost all the time. They do it a little extra. They go +2. They do a little more. They exceed expectations. Habit number 5, be short and to the point with your words. The amateur rambles on without a purpose. The professional gets to the point some of the time. The elevator chooses their words extremely carefully and uses as little words as possible. Habit number 6, be extremely positive and polite and avoid mindless negativity, gossiping, complaining, blaming, criticizing, condemning, venting. The amateur is mindlessly negative and they have poor manners. And again, I'm not judging people because that 99% of the time it comes from how they were raised. Okay. The environment they were raised in, right? To blame or make excuses or criticize others, gossip, complain. It's just who they surround themselves with now as an adult. And also, who they were raised by, the situation they were raised in. Okay. So again, I'm not judging people. I'm judging standards. The professional avoids mindless negativity for the most part and has generally good manners. The elevator relentlessly focuses on solutions, improvement, gratitude, and optimism, and avoids mindless negativity at all costs. They also have impeccable manners. Number 7, the elevator. Number 7 habit of the most respected and admired people: be direct and brutally honest. The amateur vents and talks about people behind their back. The professional doesn't talk about people behind their back, but is not brutally honest enough, meaning they don't tell the truth. The elevator is always direct and brutally honest because they know that is the highest and best way they can serve others. So when they see something, they say something. They don't give tacit approval, meaning if they see something, a behavior or mindset that's holding someone back or that's doing damage to others, they call that person out on it. They're direct and honest with people in the purpose of serving that person and helping them elevate. Not the elevator doesn't do it to step on that person. They do it to elevate that person. Let me share a quote with you from Sam Teller. He was Elon Musk's longtime chief of staff. Most people's definition of excellence is based on the highest level of excellence they've seen so far in their life and career. Everyone wants to be excellent, but most have never been exposed to excellence at its highest level, so they don't really know what is possible. If you have a higher standard, it's a competitive advantage. So you should always try to increase your own standard by working with people that drastically expand what you thought was possible. So for my challenge to you is surround yourself with as many elevators as possible. My challenge to you, now that you've seen, you understand these 10 habits, or the original 3 habits of the best in class, plus the 7 habits of respected and admired. Now you know what it takes. Now you know what an elevator does. You know what an elevator is. You know how an elevator thinks, speaks, and acts. So my challenge to you is to pick one of these out of the 10 that you need to improve the most to become an elevator. Focus on that for the next 30, 60, 90 days. Okay, when you lock that in, choose another habit. This will be life-changing for yourself and everyone around you if you choose to do this, to become that elevator, okay, who lifts others up with their thoughts, words, and actions and takes people to the top with them. I wish you an elevated life of success, happiness, and positive impact.